Every single day, thousands of drivers park their hybrid vehicles, turn off the ignition, and walk away thinking they've done everything right. They believe that giant, high-voltage battery pack sitting under the rear seat is an indestructible vault of backup power that will protect them from any mistake. But they are completely wrong. In fact, a staggering 90% of all sudden, unexplained hybrid system failures have absolutely nothing to do with that expensive high-voltage traction battery. Instead, they trace right back to a tiny, deeply misunderstood components that the dealership networks never bother to explain to you until you're staring at a $5,000 repair bill on a flatbed tow truck. The manufacturers love to sell you on the image of space age, maintenance-free reliability. They want you to believe that because you bought into the hybrid ecosystem, the traditional rules of automotive physics and vehicle storage no longer apply to you. It is a massive illusion. What they carefully omit from the slick marketing brochures is that these ultra-sophisticated setups are actually incredibly fragile ecosystems. When you treat a hybrid exactly like a traditional internal combustion vehicle, or worse, when you assume the high-voltage system will automatically baby the car while it sits, you are actively setting a trap for yourself. Just last Tuesday, a customer rolled into my workshop with a common hybrid hatchback. The dashboard looked like a stadium scoreboard. Every single malfunction indicator light was flashing. The brake actuator was buzzing uncontrollably, and the car refused to enter operational readiness. The owner was completely frantic, convinced that their main propulsion battery had finally bitten the dust, which would mean scraping together thousands of dollars for a replacement. Do you want to know what the actual culprit was? A tiny, neglected 12-volt accessory battery tucked away in a hidden trunk compartment, completely starved of voltage because of a single, repetitive daily habit. The fix took me less than 20 minutes, but if that car had gone to a predatory dealership, they would have happily sold him an entire hybrid control module, plus a fresh wiring harness, just to pad their monthly service targets. Here is what the corporate engineers will never admit to you openly. Your hybrid is a split personality machine. You have the high-voltage propulsion network operating at hundreds of volts, and you have the low-voltage auxiliary network running on a standard 12-volt circuit. The massive high-voltage pack is like a heavy-duty power plant, but it is completely blind and paralyzed without the 12-volt system. The 12-volt battery is what boots up the computers, wakes up the electronic control units, engages the safety relays, and signals the main system that it is safe to fire up. If that tiny accessory battery drops even a fraction of a volt below its strict operational threshold, the entire multi-billion-dollar hybrid system instantly transforms into an expensive, bricked paperweight. And the absolute worst place where this breakdown happens is right in your own driveway, or while you are sitting parked waiting for your family to finish shopping. Drivers routinely pull into a parking spot, press the power button without keeping their foot firmly on the brake pedal, and plunge the vehicle straight into what the manual quietly calls accessory mode. They assume that because the engine isn't running and the car is a hybrid, they can sit there for 45 minutes running the climate control fans, blasting the multi-channel sound system, charging 2 smartphones, and leaving the dash cams recording. They think the giant hybrid battery is covering the tab. It isn't. The moment you drop that vehicle into accessory mode, you completely isolate the high-voltage traction battery from the rest of the car. The heavy-duty safety contractors snap shut, cutting off the supply. Your vehicle is now running its massive array of onboard computers, digital displays, and cabin accessories entirely off that miniature 12-volt auxiliary battery. And because hybrid engineers wanted to save every ounce of weight to hit their fuel economy targets, that 12-volt battery is often half the size of a battery you would find in a traditional, compact car. It has almost zero reserve capacity. You can completely drain it past the point of recovery in less than 30 minutes of innocent idling. This brings us to the definitive countdown of the critical mistakes you are making right now when parking, idling, or storing your hybrid vehicle. If you understand these 5 hidden vulnerabilities, you can easily bypass the service department entirely and ensure your vehicle runs flawlessly for hundreds of thousands of miles. Let's break down the first critical mistake: the daily accessory drain routine. Doing this once or twice by accident won't completely destroy the system. But if you make it a habit, sitting in your car during your lunch break every day with the radio playing in accessory mode, you are systematically wearing down the chemistry of that 12-volt battery. Eventually, the battery loses its ability to hold a deep charge. One morning, you'll walk out, hit the start button, and instead of the green readiness indicator, you'll be greeted by flickering screens, random electrical glitches, and a series of clicking noises from the engine bay. The car isn't broken. It is simply starved for wake-up voltage. The second major vulnerability is the long-term storage illusion. When owners go away on business trips or extended vacations for 3, 4, or 6 weeks, they think leaving the hybrid parked in a secure garage is perfectly safe. They assume that since nothing is turned on, the vehicle will remain in suspended animation. This is a massive miscalculation. Modern hybrids are never truly asleep. Even when the ignition is completely off, a dozen different telemetry modules, keyless entry sensors, and security computers are constantly pulsing, drawing a microampere parasitic load on that tiny 12-volt battery, while that parasitic draw is happening on the low-voltage side. Something much more sinister is occurring inside your high-voltage traction battery. High-voltage battery cells do not tolerate sitting completely idle at extreme states of charge. If you park your car for a month with the hybrid battery packed to 100% capacity, or conversely, if you park it when the state of charge indicator is hovering near empty, you are causing severe chemical stress to the lithium-ion or nickel-metal hydride cells. Over a period of weeks, the voltage levels between individual cells begin to drift and become deeply imbalanced. When you finally return from your trip and try to boot the system, the main hybrid management computer runs a self-diagnostic check. The moment it detects that cell number 14 has a slightly different voltage threshold than cell number 15, it panics. It flags a critical system fault, locks down the powertrain, and illuminates the dreaded master warning triangle on your instrument cluster. You haven't driven a single mile, yet your battery pack has started to degrade its long-term capacity by up to 20%. Purely due to static chemical stagnation. Many drivers try to combat this by telling a neighbor or family member to just start the car up once a week and let it idle in the driveway for 5 minutes. This is mistake number 3, and it actually inflicts more damage than leaving the car completely alone. When you start a hybrid briefly, the internal combustion engine frequently fires up to perform a cold start emissions cycle. This dumps unburnt fuel into the oil casing and strains the mechanical components without ever running the vehicle long enough to achieve true thermal efficiency. More importantly, a 5-minute stationary cycle is nowhere near long enough for the onboard direct current to direct current converter to properly balance and replenish the deep chemical reserves of either battery system. You are simply draining the system further while creating moisture buildup inside the engine block. But what if I told you that the greatest threat to your parked hybrid isn't even electrical or mechanical? What if the vulnerability that completely totals these vehicles during storage is an invisible biological hazard that automakers have intentionally invited right under your hood, using a design change they refuse to recall? You could follow every single electrical precaution perfectly, protect your batteries flawlessly, and still walk out to a completely ruined vehicle that requires a total teardown of the main wiring looms. The truth about what is happening inside your engine bay while your car sits silent is wilder than you think, and it all comes down to a hidden ingredient inside the wiring insulation itself. Here's the fix most dealers won't mention, and they certainly won't advertise it because it doesn't involve buying a brand new factory component with a 4-figure price tag. They would much rather wait for your vehicle to get towed in so they can charge you for diagnosis, labor, and a completely replaced factory wiring assembly. The truth is, protecting your hybrid from the electrical traps and biological hazards we just uncovered takes less than an hour of your time, requires basic tools you can find at any local hardware store, and costs less than $50 out of pocket. You do not need an engineering degree to execute this. You just need to understand the simple physical steps to outsmart a flawed design. Let's start with the immediate fix for the biological nightmare sitting under your hood right now. To understand why this happens, you have to realize that over the last decade, automakers transitioned away from traditional petroleum-based plastic wiring insulation. In an effort to meet strict environmental regulations and lower production footprints, they began wrapping electrical harnesses in an insulation made from soy-based and plant-based compounds. To a mouse, a rat, or a squirrel, your engine bay isn't just a warm shelter. It is a giant buffet line wrapped in sweet, starchy packaging. And because a hybrid powertrain contains up to 3 times more wiring density than a standard vehicle to link the inverter, the converter, and the battery management units, your vehicle is target number 1. When a rodent chews through just one of those microscopic communication wires, it breaks the vehicle's controller area network. The computers lose their ability to talk to each other. The vehicle locks down its high-voltage relays as a safety precaution, and you are left with a massive repair bill. But you can stop them completely using a simple, mechanical deterrent that leverages the rodent's own sensory biology against them. First, you need to purchase a specific type of electrical tape infused with capsicum. This is a specialized automotive tape manufactured with highly concentrated extract of hot peppers. Rodents have incredibly sensitive olfactory and taste receptors. The moment their teeth touch this tape, the heat compound creates an immediate, overwhelming, burning sensation that forces them to abandon the area instantly. It does not harm the animal permanently, but it creates a powerful psychological barrier. A single roll costs about $30 to $40 online or at a commercial parts counter. To apply this fix properly, open your hood and locate the primary wiring bundles. You want to focus specifically on the high exposure areas, the harnesses running near the firewall at the back of the engine bay, the wiring looms clipping into the top of the inverter assembly, and the exposed cables running along the lower frame rails. Clean the surface of the factory plastic conduits with a dry microfiber cloth to remove any grease or dust. Then, wrap the pepper-infused tape tightly around these main arterial lines. You do not need to wrap every square inch of the vehicle. Just focus on the main intersections where a single bite could sever a multi-conductor harness. This simple wrapping process takes about 30 minutes and completely bulletproofs your wiring against nesting pests. Now let's move to the secondary defense layer, which costs less than $10. Pure peppermint oil. True, natural peppermint oil contains high concentrations of menthone, a chemical compound that completely overloads a rodent's nasal passages, destroying their ability to track scent trails left by other animals. Do not spray this directly onto your hot engine components or electrical connectors. Instead, purchase a handful of large, heavy-duty cotton balls. Soak them thoroughly in the pure oil and place them strategically inside plastic containers with ventilated lids. Secure these containers using zip ties in the dead spaces of the engine compartment, such as behind the headlight housings or near the structural strut towers, completely away from moving belts or hot exhaust manifolds. I implemented this exact dual-layer protection system for a client named Sarah last winter. She lived out in a rural area and had her hybrid hatchback brought to my shop twice in 6 months because field mice kept nesting on top of her cabin air filter, chewing the motor blower wires, and destroying the climate control system. The dealership told her the only option was to park the car entirely inside a sealed, climate-controlled facility. That was completely impractical for her. We spent 45 minutes wrapping her main low-voltage harnesses with the pepper tape and secured 3 peppermint pods inside her engine bay and cowl panel. She has parked that vehicle outside through 2 full winters since then, and her engine bay remains absolutely pristine without a single trace of rodent activity. The second part of the fix addresses the silent electrical killer, the static degradation of your 2 distinct battery systems during periods of non-use. If you are leaving your vehicle parked for more than 10 days, you must intervene to stop the microampere parasitic draw from flattening your 12-volt accessory battery. Remember, if that small battery dies, the big propulsion battery cannot engage its safety contractors, leaving you stranded. The most effective set-it-and-forget solution is to install a smart, low-voltage battery maintainer, often called a trickle charger. You want to look for a unit specifically rated for standard floating lead-acid or absorbed glass mat batteries, depending on what type your vehicle utilizes. These smart chargers do not constantly dump raw electrical current into the battery, which would cook the cells. Instead, they constantly monitor the ambient temperature and exact voltage level, applying a tiny microcharge only when the battery drops below 12.6 volts, and entering a safe sleep mode once full capacity is reached. A reliable, high-quality smart maintainer costs around $30 to $50. To connect this system, you do not even need to remove the battery from the vehicle. In most modern hybrids, that 12-volt accessory battery is hidden in a tight compartment in the trunk or under the rear quarter panel. However, engineers design an easier access point under the hood inside the main fuse box. Open the black plastic fuse cover near the engine compartment. Look for a bright red plastic flip cap marked with a positive plus sign. Flip that cap up to reveal a heavy-duty metal terminal. Connect the positive red clamp of your smart charger directly to that terminal. Next, attach the negative black clamp of your charger to an unpainted, solid metal ground point on the vehicle's frame or engine block. Plug the charger into a standard household wall outlet. Route the thin charging wire safely out through the gap in the hood and lower the hood to the first latch position. If you are storing the vehicle in a location without access to an electrical outlet, such as an airport parking structure, your fix is even simpler: physical isolation. Pop the trunk or lift the rear floor panel to access the physical 12-volt battery. Use a simple 10mm wrench to loosen the nut on the negative battery terminal clamp. Slide the clamp completely off the metal post and wrap it in a dry rag to ensure it cannot accidentally spring back and contact the terminal. By disconnecting the negative ground path, you completely break the electrical circuit. The parasitic computer modules can no longer draw a single milliamp of current. Your 12-volt battery will sit in a stable, preserved state for months without losing its charge. When you return, simply slide the clamp back on, tighten the 10mm nut, and the vehicle will boot instantly. However, you must be incredibly cautious and avoid the massive misconceptions that trip up even experienced car enthusiasts. The biggest mistake you can make when using a battery maintainer or disconnecting a battery is misidentifying the terminals. Never, under any circumstances, connect an external charging device directly to the thick, bright orange high-voltage cables running through the engine bay or under the chassis. Those orange cables carry hundreds of volts of direct current and are completely separate from your 12-volt auxiliary system. Releasing external current into those lines can instantly destroy the high-voltage inverter assembly or trigger an electrical arc that can cause severe injury. Furthermore, do not make the mistake of assuming that leaving your vehicle on a maintainer means you can completely neglect the high-voltage traction pack. Before you leave the car for extended storage, you must manually manage its state of charge. Drive the vehicle around your neighborhood until the dashboard display shows the high-voltage battery icon is exactly in the middle, roughly 40 to 60% capacity. Do not park it with the battery completely green and full, and do not park it when it is running low on 2 bars. Leaving it at a moderate, neutral state reduces internal cell pressure and prevents chemical degradation while it rests. You have now established total control over the environment under your hood. Your wiring is protected by biological deterrents. Your 12-volt system is maintained against parasitic drain, and your high-voltage pack is balanced in its ideal chemical sweet spot. But what happens when you aren't storing the vehicle? What about the hidden mechanical traps that occur when you are actively driving and operating the vehicle daily, especially during extreme summer heat waves or freezing winter blizzards? The ways your hybrid handles thermal management while driving can either extend its life by a decade or silently cook its components from the inside out. By taking matters into your own hands and executing these simple, low-cost modifications, you aren't just saving yourself from an unexpected towing bill next month. You are completely shifting the timeline on the lifespan of your vehicle. When you eliminate the silent parasitic drains on your 12-volt system and build a definitive barrier against structural rodent damage, you unlock the true, uncompromised engineering potential of your hybrid powertrain. The long-term rewards of these interventions manifest exactly where it matters most: in your wallet, in your vehicle's day-to-day operational efficiency, and in the sheer longevity of its most expensive components. First and foremost, keeping your 12-volt accessory battery operating at its optimal voltage threshold has a massive, cascading positive effect on the health of your primary high-voltage traction pack. Most people do not realize that when a 12-volt battery becomes chronically degraded or structurally weak, the vehicle's internal direct current to direct current converter has to work overtime to constantly pump current back into it to keep it alive. This means that while you are driving down the highway, precious electrical energy is being diverted away from your electric propulsion motors just to keep a dying accessory battery on life support. By ensuring your 12-volt battery stays healthy, you eliminate this unnecessary drag on the system, which directly translates to maximizing your real-world fuel economy and smoothing out the transition between electric power and gasoline propulsion. Furthermore, you can easily extend the service life of that 12-volt factory battery by 2 to 3 years. Instead of replacing a highly specialized, expensive hybrid accessory battery every 24 months due to severe deep discharge cycles, yours will easily march past the 5-year mark without breaking a sweat. On the structural side, by armor plating your wiring looms with pepper-infused mechanical boundaries, you prevent localized short circuits that can cause intermittent electrical gremlins for years. You preserve the factory integrity of your entire electrical grid, ensuring that your vehicle maintains its maximum resale value and absolute dependability regardless of where or how long you park it. To maximize these long-term gains, you need to integrate a few simple, complementary habits into your regular vehicle inspection routine. Once every 3 months, when you pop the hood to check your fluid levels, take exactly 60 seconds to perform a visual inspection of your hybrid battery cooling fan filter. Most modern hybrids draw cabin air through a small, slotted vent located beneath the rear seat or along the side floor panel to actively cool down the high-voltage battery modules. Over time, this intake vent can become completely clogged with pet hair, dust, and household debris. When the filter is restricted, internal battery temperatures skyrocket during summer driving, which drastically accelerates cell degradation. Clean this filter regularly with a soft brush or a vacuum extension. It costs absolutely nothing, takes 2 minutes, and directly prevents your high-voltage pack from cooking itself from the inside out. Additionally, make it a strict rule to check the condition of your engine cowl drains at the base of your front windshield. This is the exact location where leaves, twigs, and organic debris love to collect. When these drainage channels become blocked, rainwater cannot escape properly and begins to pool inside the wiper transmission valley. Not only does this stagnant organic matter create the ultimate nesting material that draws curious rodents directly to your firewall, but that trapped moisture can eventually seep past your cabin air filter housing and drip directly onto the sensitive electronic control modules mounted behind your dashboard. Keep those channels clear, and you deny pests their primary staging ground while protecting your computers from catastrophic water ingress. Now, as your mentor in the workshop, I have to give you a transparent look at the potential trade-offs and nuances when adjusting your driving habits to protect these systems. Many hybrid owners attempt to keep their high-voltage batteries perfectly conditioned by driving exclusively in specialized operational modes, such as selecting a dedicated sports setting or forcing the vehicle into manual gear selection to increase regenerative braking. While it is true that these settings alter the state of charge parameters and can help quickly raise a low battery level, they come with a direct cost. Operating permanently in a sport configuration holds your internal combustion engine at higher operational revolutions per minute and alters throttle mapping, which can cause a temporary 5 to 10% drop in your overall fuel economy. Similarly, relying too heavily on aggressive, Forced electric-only driving modes for extended commutes might feel like you are saving gasoline, but it forces the high-voltage battery to endure rapid, deep discharge cycles. This rapid cycling generates significant internal thermal stress within the individual cells. The secret to hybrid longevity isn't about forcing the system into extremes. It is about balance. Let the onboard computers do their job under normal driving conditions, and focus your efforts on protecting the vehicle when it is stationary, idling, or stored. Ultimately, the power to keep your hybrid out of the dealership's predatory service department belongs entirely to you. The automotive manufacturing complex wants you to feel disconnected from the machine under your hood. They want you to believe that modern vehicles are too complex, too computerized, and too dangerous for the average owner to maintain or understand. They rely on your compliance and your lack of information to feed their highly profitable service business models. By understanding the dual battery dynamics of your hybrid system, recognizing the vulnerabilities of eco-friendly wiring materials, and executing these straightforward preventive measures, you have successfully broken out of that loop. You have taken active stewardship of your machine. You now possess the insider knowledge to diagnose issues before they happen, protect your vehicle from hidden hazards, and drive with the absolute confidence of someone who knows exactly how their car works. Stay vigilant, trust your hands-on observations over corporate marketing, and keep your vehicle operating on your own terms. You've got the tools, you've got the truth, and you are fully capable of protecting your investment for the long haul.